Final one coming out. I often question it on console. It is the mirror. She's very useful down in the basement, but anywhere else her use is limited. So it's quite a, not even a map specific ban, it's quite a site specific ban with mirror coming in. And I think on the defense, personally, for me, I think Echo, Maestro, probably more valuable than the mirror.
Yeah, it's kind of particular about Epsilon is they pretty consistently ban out Mirror. A lot of the times they'll do it as a comfort. They did it yesterday on Border and Villa as well, which is a little bit more prevalent. But they've generally kept that up as a statistic, if I can say the letters in the right way, throughout the entire season. But we are opening up on this top 4 point, which has kind of become the old familiar, even though Thermite wasn't removed. I'm actually very, very excited to see Nomad, because she was almost entirely banned out yesterday.
Yeah, we've already seen the power of Nomad here on CCS. I remember the first week that she was available to use, we saw her taken onto Oregon, and it was an absolute nightmare for the defenders playing against her. She got a couple of kills directly from those air jabs, so we have already seen the power. So no surprise to see her having a high ban rate, but like you say, always interesting to see her allowed through, because it's an operator that we haven't seen too much of. So what are these players going to do with her? How are they going to be creative with her? What ideas will they have? Where will she fit into those strategies? Obviously, her main strength is in picking off the rotations and just stopping the defenders being able to move back to site as comfortably as they might like. But on a top floor consulate hold, it depends how the defenders play it. It is a very good roaming map. There's 3 staircases that move back up to top floor, so it is very difficult, therefore, to narrow those rotations down.
Well, you can see they're already concerned about that possible jump out and rotations on the windows. They bring in the claymores, and getting them set up is always your go-to on those kind of yellow entrances. But Renshiro opens up the kill against Milan, and that's the first one, which I can only assume will be many. But no, Astro gets the trade-off and picks the man out. Hits a Nomad charge in the midst of it somehow. I can only imagine that was a very nice movement indeed. Dug in behind the table and the bomb site in meeting and hoping that the cover comes across. They did double reinforce bathroom at the top of yellow, so they're not going to hold it so directly and trust Shermie underneath on that pulse to kind of feed the information to the rest of the players so they can respond quickly. But this is one of those points, as you said, it is generally familiar. Pipsy, however, shuts Lion down on those double windows on console.
Yeah, early attempt from XTreme there to come in and use the strength of those windows and also the balcony area, and it's really not paying dividends for them. They've just lost the 3rd man there with Nomad going off the board as well. So that leaves Fisker now looking to move on to those yellow stairs, but we've got a roamer deep downstairs who is going to make that very, very difficult from the archives area. And Fisker doesn't really have too much of a choice here. He can't ignore that roamer. He can't just start to push up yellow stairs, because if he does, he's going to get shot in the back. He's got Liven coming to support, so that call out has obviously gone out. There's somebody playing at the bottom of Spiral. Liven's just moving down there to look for a challenge. Can he support his teammate? Almost certainly. I think he comes in and gets the kill here from the side. There it is. Kill onto Pulse, not a problem. However, Pulse has just done his job there. Great plays from Shermie. Not only is he down the Jackal, he's just wasted about 35 seconds, and that's exactly what you want from your roamers. Not only that, he's also allowed other people to move out onto the roam now that are going to waste even more time, because he's given the call out that both remaining XTreme players are downstairs on yellow stairs. Liven moving in though and evening up that man count with a kill onto Fipsy. So how does this go from here? For me, last 30 seconds, we've got an Echo in the shape of Madman. Things are going to be very difficult for XTreme from here. They've got the diffuser in hand on Jackal, but with 20 seconds to go, they're not even on the top floor, and they're going to have to start moving quickly. It's not to say it can't be done. We have a little attempt at a nade toss underneath there, but it won't quite hit the mark as the defender just moves away once he gets Jackal trapped. We've got Fisker just holding an angle there. He does have a goo mine inside his leg, and that will finish him off. Madman gets the kill onto Liven, finishes things off onto Fisker, and as I suggested there, XTreme just had an awful lot to do in those final 20 seconds. That'll be the first round going in favour of the defenders.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. What the Pulse was doing down in that basement was exactly what you want a Roman to do, because it is so frequently said the attackers are up against two things in a round of Siege. It is your opponents and it is the clock itself. The defenders aren't there really to try and kill the attackers. They're there to waste as much time and efficiency and energy and utility as they can before the attackers can find themselves comfortably on the spot. And that is exactly what was demonstrated there. Got the man down, took all the time for the rotate to get them picked back up, kept the pressure hot and kept the map alive as well. You know, it just paid off dividends because it forced them. You could see they didn't even have time to pull out the goo mine in the end there. They just had to move and had to move onto a room that was just a bit too dangerous for them. We are going to drop down to lobby as the second pick as well. Now, this is one that you generally hold with a bit of top heavy, which again does play into the way these guys like to. I think what we saw there from Epsilon as well in that previous round was exactly what they need to keep doing. They need to be alive on the map. They need to keep it mobile. They need to keep their defense mobile, and they need to keep as you said, XTreme guessing with the tactics. XTreme a little bit off kilter and a little bit on the back foot so they can take advantage of getting into those firefights.
Yeah, I think it's a case of, you know, don't try to play those strategic defences. Don't get yourself on site and try and hold 3 or 4 angles and just be, you know, sound in the knowledge that you've got your reinforcements and gadgets in the right place. Epsilon's strength here is getting out on the roam and getting those firefights. That's exactly what they want, is to get into those gun battles. And that's what they've just done, and it's just showed that it's absolutely worked dividends for them. They've lost 3 men very, very quickly there of XTreme without even getting onto site. So that is something that they really do need to be careful of here. They're going to face a very similar push here because they're going to have to clear out the top floor again. As you can see, Consulate can be an absolute nightmare for those exterior windows. They are being very, very careful about those, very cautious indeed. And obviously this time that's something that they've recognised, but Renshiro will fall foul of it again. They'd recognised that last time they'd had a problem getting operators inside of the map. This time they lose another one, and they're having to now think about how they make this approach, and they're moving in downstairs to get rid of that roamer again, but I'm not sure that they're exactly aware of where the Epsilon man is.
Oh, he's buried deep inside that garage as well, just waiting. You can hear the pings going off, but Milan gets tracked in the end. There is Jackal doing his work, and Milan is going to step up to the firefight. But Liven had rotated around the back of the security room and managed to lock that down. So they've at least got a floor now, but it is a hard floor as you've now got to clear and push upwards. And with Renshiro off the board as well, yes, you don't massively need that hard destruction against a point like this with its immediacy of the lobby door, but it's still nice to have because you don't know what they've done on those top floor hatches. You don't know what angles that they've locked off, and you do find yourself potentially funneled.
1 minute 20 left on the clock then. We've got 4 versus 4. We're missing a Hibana, we're missing a Jaeger. Neither are huge losses to the team at this point. Hibana, not too much of a threat on a lobby objective. There are certainly more useful operators, and the Jaeger, his gadgets have already largely been deployed. We just saw Shermie taking some points of damage there in a little gunfight, but he managed to get himself out of it. Always a good idea. Get yourself into another area of the map and live to fight another day. If you can get within a line of sight. Now Doc, how about that for a nice kill from Yogurt's, just holding that angle almost as if he knew Astro was coming there on the bandit, and gets a fantastic headshot onto him. We can see Shermie trading that out, and that is a great example of what I was in the middle of saying. That Mute has just got himself out of dodge, kept himself alive, got to Doc, got himself healed up, and then gone and got a kill for his team. How is that for a swing? We're going to see Fipsy getting in with a kill there as well, and that now leaves us 3 versus 2 in favour of the defenders here. And again, like you said, Fluke, they're just keeping themselves ultra mobile here. Shermie with another kill on that roaming Mute. He's absolutely unstoppable at the minute. However, a knife from Liven will stop him dead in his tracks. Liven moves into sight, but Fipsy gets that kill. He's waiting for him, and he can hear him moving into sight, and that finishes things off 2-0 for Epsilon. Great start.
Oh, unbelievable start, and they're going to be riding this as hard and as fast as they can. Now, one of the things to note from the games that we were watching yesterday is during the XTreme versus Supremacy game, a lot of the executes, a lot of the kind of final fights came down in the final throws of the round, and the final 15 seconds, shall we say, across the maps that we saw. Just in the first one alone, 4 rounds ended to timeout. And across the entire 3 maps that we saw in Epsilon's game, none of them did. They were so much more willing to get into these firefights, get into these battles early on, and then change depending on how the round went out. And that is what they are bringing. That is the fire that they're bringing. And just that kind of balance of stats of looking down at it from that top view just shows that this is what they're comfortable in. And this is what XTreme, unfortunately, aren't comfortable in. And it could be down to their defenses, where they're kind of able to get a bit more time and a bit more setup and a bit more breathing room where they'll start taking rounds. But so far, their attacks are looking just overwhelmed by Epsilon.
Yep, absolutely agree. They just seem to be struggling to just narrow down where those roamers are operating. And as I said, it's just down to the mobility of Epsilon at this point. The roamers aren't in any one location. They're not there to be pinched, because when you do get into the location where you've just seen them 15, 20 seconds ago, they're no longer there anymore. They have been caught foul of that once or twice. It's something they need to be careful of. We've seen Liven take advantage of that in both rounds so far, with a kill onto, I believe it was Shermie in the first round. I can't remember who it was in the last round. I think it was possibly Milon on the Jaeger that he caught out downstairs on just in the cafeteria area. So when they are remaining in place in situ, XTreme are very, very capable of dealing with that. Liven obviously reacting very well from information that is being read, going in and getting those kills, a bit like a heat-seeking missile. But whilst Epsilon can keep themselves mobile and keep XTreme guessing, they certainly seem to be getting the advantage. We can see an early rear push coming out here, and that's not too much of a surprise given that Thermite is off the board. It's a big ask of the Hibana to get that front garage open, because it's so easy for the Bandit to take those charges out.
Well, we can see Renshira's actually managed to get some hard destruction done, and said that there was a point to do it. This is the one, get control of that basement and start clearing across via Archive, the route they've decided to take. And when Thermite is taken off the table, it makes it a more kind of cleaner push, because, well, we all know how reliable those Hibana pellets can be, and XTreme actually suffered the hands of misfired Hibanas just yesterday on Villa. They're not going to roll with that dice anymore. They're going to keep it clean, go for hatches. They're concerned about the bottom of circle stairs. Milon is playing that Jaeger up high, which we do see him frequently do. Shermie is not too far away, though, ready to go down Spiral and see if they can catch the back of Lion, who's just going to try and keep an eye on it as best as they can. You can see Fipsy, the smoke, trying to get a bit closer as well, see if they can just delay and allow the team enough time to collapse it back round. But the pressure is coming from cafeteria door, and there is the Nomad. Yoga's taken off the table. Lion is going to rotate around to fill the space. Renshiro is still looking for that battle against Shermie, who has actually just pulled off Milon slow and steady, creeping his way back via service. Nova's actually going to just kind of hang around and wait as Fisker shuts down Shermie. Madman gets down Lion, though, and these are big bullets traded across this locker hallway side, and there's still a minute left. There is so much time for these 3 attackers to find their way towards this point.
It certainly is, but the defender's in great position at the minute. Obviously, don't forget, we've still got Milon out on the roam. It looks like Fisker might be aware that that is the case, and that well could shut him out of the rest of this round. Lots will depend on it, whether he manages to get back to sat. But how about that for a headshot from Astro? Absolutely beautiful. Milon finishes it with another one of his own onto Fisker. Liven will pick up that kill onto Astro, but at this point, it is going to be impactless, as Milon, having got the first kill for himself, is then free to rotate back to site as he pleases and gets himself that final kill onto Liven. And for me, that round was just about a lack of urgency or ability to deal with that roaming Milon there.
Exactly. They're kind of what you'll see, and there's certain teams that they do the same kind of clear every time, and I'm going to hark to Empire for this, is they'll go for that Archive top floor clear, and they'll push themselves across, or their admin office clear even, and they'll push themselves across, and they'll work their way down the map strategically, which, yeah, it doesn't work on everyone, and it doesn't work for every team, but the way that this is being held by Epsilon, it could be a better idea of looking at it, because, as you said, the roam is really, really shutting them down at this moment in time, and they just need to find themselves in a more sturdy position inside the building before they start making their way towards point, because if they leave these players that are exceptional roamers, exceptional at movement, and exceptional at pulling out these frags in situations where a lot of other players couldn't, this is what happens. You never have comfort, you never have stability in your attack, and it just becomes an easier break apart by the defenders, who are just like, oh, let's just kill them, let's just take them from behind, let's just do this. And you know, with a team like Epsilon, you can't grant them those permissions.
Looking towards round number 4 then, we've got Epsilon coming out with a very quick start, 3-0 here, and XTreme just really struggling to shut down that roam game of Epsilon, and certainly not coming off the better in a lot of those gunfights that they're getting into. I would expect to see something a little bit different in this round though. I don't think Epsilon are quite going to have the run of things as they would wish here. If you remember last time we saw this objective defended, it was back in round number 1, and XTreme lost 3 lives very, very quickly, Renshiro being the foremost. So I think Renshiro's game has just slowed down a little bit. He didn't die too soon in that last round, and I think that's something they're going to take away coming into this attack now, is they are not going to want to be in that same position. And as suspected, 30 seconds in, we've got no real direct progress towards site as it stands. We've got a lot of droning going on, and that is absolutely no surprise. This is XTreme recognising that they had major issues last time getting inside the map, and they are making sure that that is not the case this time.
Well, you can see all the battles happening, and Milan suffers no damage as Lion yet again takes a chunk against those windows, but doesn't actually go down this time, so that's a bit of a better step than it was the previous window battle. Still just pre-firing, and wood falls across Lion's head, but nothing too major as bullets go across the ankles of Milan. Madman is still holding inside bathroom, but Yogurt suffers a huge amount on that west front window there. As Live and again, they're all just holding angles, all trying to dig in and just try and catch. One of Epsilon being a bit overzealous and rotating a bit wider than they should be, which is a smart move, but only if Epsilon fall for it, and so far they're not finding a way to make them until Renshiro drops Madman from deep, and this is exactly what they want. They want them to be moving across. Look at these sight lines that they have encompassed across those windows. They have so many crossfires and so many angles. Unfortunately, Astro finds Renshiro, but you can see that they still, you know, they have an idea, although there is only a minute left at this point.
1 minute to go, and we are 4 versus 4, but look at those hit points on Lion and Yogurts. They've barely got 30 between them. I think one bullet in the right position could probably finish both of those two. So they are definitely on the edge. They're having to just hold tight angles here, and what it does when you're so low on HP, it largely takes you out of the round. And how about that for a jump out from Milan to get things going? He goes for the second as well, but Yogurts will manage to get the turn onto him. So that is a 1-for-1, but still not the end of the world. You've got Yogurts on super low health with the diffuser here. He's not in any major position to be making a plant. You've got Doc on site, who is going to heal up anybody who needs it, which actually happens to be himself, so he overclocks himself a little bit as well. And now it's just about Epsilon waiting for this attack. We are again into that final 20 seconds where XTreme have no choice but to start pushing directly onto site. As you can see from the silhouettes, we've got them out on the rappel, we've got them miles away. Fipsy gets a kill onto Fisker. Live and with trade there, getting Fipsy off the board as well. So it's now 1 versus 2. The diffuser starts to go down. There's not much that Astro can do about that because of the reinforce. He's going to get hit from bathroom, but he does stop the diffuse. No, he doesn't. He manages to get it down, so that leaves us 1 versus 1. Liven's going to finish that off. I really thought that was so fractional. I thought Astro had managed to get in there in time and stop that diffuser plant going down. But as I said, better from XTreme there. We were a minute and a half into the round, and they still had all the men on the board. Much slower, much better progress from them.
That was the thing. As I said before, they like to execute in those final throws of a round, and it worked very well for them. Yes, they were set up. Yes, they lost a couple of people for dangling on those windows just a bit too long, but as soon as they had the confidence and the operators that they wanted out of the equation, they swung in and took the ground they needed to. It was very close to that diffuser carrier being caught. You could see Astro firing the bullets in the right place, and he was just a bit too far around the hard reinforcement to suffer a fate from it, but you know, they're going to take themselves back up to console. They've won it once. They've lost it once as defenders. And for them, it wasn't the wrong thing to do. They were exceptionally close. I think maybe a little bit overzealous doing the jump out, but if it had got the double against Yogurts, then that would have been the round for them.
Certainly would. And what we're going to see now coming into round 5 is we're going to see Epsilon doing something that we haven't seen from them yet, and that is playing around after they've just lost one. How do they react here? That's the question. So far, they've had the rub of the green. They've pretty much had things all their own way. They've not really been stretched too far, but XTreme there have just dug the heel in and said, right, enough's enough now. We're going to slow things down, we're going to play our game, and we're going to get in and get that diffuser down. And that's something that we spoke about beforehand, Fluke, if you recall. We were talking about this tactical game and that XTreme will want to take it more to an objective-based game, I feel. And that's what we've seen so far. Epsilon, whilst they've managed to keep it on the run and gun and keep XTreme away from site, they've been successful. But as soon as XTreme get themselves into a position to get into sight and plant, they come away victorious on the round. So obviously that's something that XTreme are going to want to continue. At the minute, if I was them, I'd be staying well away from any windows. They're obviously not doing great on the window play. And there, Milon again on that roam. How many times have we seen it? And even as he gets the kill, we see him absolutely hightailing it across the map. That's the sledge, and more importantly, 2 nades gone. And we've just seen Milon there rotate himself back up to the meeting room site. So great plays from him, making a nuisance of himself and then getting himself back to a position of safety to continue fighting.
Well, we can see Yogurt's again stuck up on that window too. I like that they're showing a little bit more concern for the runouts, but at the same time, they've got to start setting up those pressure points, those anvils to throw hammers against to be able to catch Epsilon out. And you can hear the bullets and see the debris pinging over the heads of them. But from that point, they've got to start making moves. They've got to start actually applying this pressure. Otherwise, it's a bit of wasted. And we did say, obviously, it'd be nice to see how they react and how they respond to losing a round. And I think bringing Maestro for the first time today is a good change. Obviously, now Sledge is off the board as well. It kind of leaves it to either Frags or Renshiro to drop it with those aggressive impacts. But you can hear Echo Drones going off in a minute 20 as Renshiro slowly creeps via Piano and Press. And they're looking to, again, force people into the sightlines of the upstairs operators.
A little bit surprised with Epsilon here. They came out and got some good early aggression. There's a lot of time been wasted without much progress for XTreme, but they got some real success with it, and that was the difference between this round and last round. There was no real pressure applied to XTreme until they got themselves into the map, and that allowed them to get in a plan. And I liked that Milon took the initiative to get that run out, get that aggressive first kill onto Liven, and send a message to say we're still here. As it was, he rotated himself back to site. We can see him now deep in console office. He's watching the same angle as Fipsy, who will get a view. Astro gets a kill at the same time. That's Lion and Fisker going down. We've got Milon taking the kill onto Renshiro, and just as I'm about to start criticising the Epsilon defence, they come out with a nice 3k, and it's Caster's Curse. Who could have guessed it? But my point was, early round they showed some good aggression, and then they just fallen back to that sort of turtle defence, and I wasn't sure how that was going to play out for them. As it happens, they've done very well, and they've got XTreme now down to 1 man. Yogurt's only 1 remaining. Fipsy steps out, gets the headshot. Not too much of a surprise there, and that will be another round going in favour of Epsilon. Who saw this coming?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's such a hard one to do because this, as you said, going into this is XTreme's map. Not only in that it is the map that they physically chose, but also in the map that it is one that kind of works very well with strategy, works very well with teamwork, which is what they should arguably have over Epsilon at this point. A team that hasn't scrimmed together is Epsilon, and yet here we see Epsilon completely giving them the runaround of this building. They are kind of all over them, and I think, as I said before, what we'll see the proper balance of this and who really has the most heat is when we do swap sides and we see the Epsilon attack go against the XTreme defense, because give XTreme a little bit of time and they're going to find their strength in that time. And obviously there is no better than when you are setting up a defense, when you are forcing the attackers to play against your strategy, which when it's the other way around and you're forcing to play against this on a strategy heavy team, this can happen. This is where Epsilon find the run of the ground. They say, well, you know, the strategy is we're just going to fight you. We're just going to pick gunfights. And it's working so well for them.
Yeah, and that's very difficult to play against, because how do you stop a team doing that? If they're going to be aggressive and they're going to move into the areas of the map that you're currently trying to dominate, really, you have to win those gunfights. That's the only way to stop a team who is actively seeking gunfights with you. And if they're doing that because they're confident in their skills and they're actually winning those fights, whew, I tell you what, that becomes a tense affair for you as a team, because it gets very, very difficult to play against. But XTreme are going to have to do something in order to do that. I think switching onto the defense will help them, because again, that just helps you to determine and define where those fights are going to take place. You can hold your angles, and then the attackers have to move into your angles in order to be able to pick the gunfights. Madman coming in with that first kill again. I think that's the fifth round out of 6 that we've seen Epsilon come out with that first kill. Onto Yogurts this time on the Nomad, so that's going to free up those flanks potentially without those gadgets going down. We've got Astro on the Bandit just challenging another one out on the balcony there. It looks like a Jackal, possibly a Fisker from that outline, and again he knows he's there. He's just going to sit and hold his position now. If he peeks around this corner, he's just got the ping, he knows he's off to the left, he wants to do it, and he will be down by the second man. Milon coming in and just supporting again. Milon on that very flexible roam game. He's like Bugs Bunny in the cartoon playing the every position of the baseball team. Milon at the minute is absolutely all over this map. We will see XTreme managing to get themselves one back, but Astro will trade that straight back out onto Liven, and that leaves us coming to a minute and a half, 4 versus 2 in favour of Epsilon, and I don't know what XTreme are going to do.
Yeah, at this point you can see that they are suffering so much. Renshiro manages to pull it a little bit back and take Shermie off the equation, but the diffuser is cold on the floor outside lobby, and they are still trying to find their way through this very, very hot defense. Still locked off heavily above. Obviously, Astro is still with 4 Shockwire in pocket as well, so what he intended to do with those, I'm not quite sure, but they've at least managed to pick up the diffuser. And again, we've got to point to the fact that there is a lot of time, and time only really benefits the attackers, normally and usually. Don't get me wrong, they are making great use of this, as we've seen so far with Epsilon, but give an attacker a moment to come up with a second strategy, a second push, which XTreme should be more than capable of doing, and they might be able to start to find the weaknesses in your defense. You can see they're rotating down to this garage push as well. Want to creep up, I say creep as IQ screams out loud, but they want to creep up the bottom of these yellow stairs and try and find a way into the back of Piano, maybe take the fight away from the expected lobby door. But again, 30 seconds left. You can see Renshiro is creeping up as well against the circle stairs, gonna pop one through the corner. IQ is suffering an echo, and Astro is, well, not suffering at all, and Renshiro. Lion finds one, Milon locks it off though, and that makes it a 5-1 split as we go into the swapping of halves.
That just goes to show there a great example of how important something simple like a barricade can be. So Renshiro moves up those spiral stairs from the basement, and he finds himself with a barricade in front of him. So what was at that point a stealth attack that they were probably unaware of, then can be nothing but announced, because he has to take out that barricade to make any progress. And as soon as he does, Astro turns his attention onto the spiral stairs and gets himself the kill. So sometimes it can be detrimental to your team to barricade off too much. You want to leave it open for your roamers, but if you know that that's a path that your roamers are not going to use and you commit to that, get it barricaded off, and like that it can become a fantastic sound cue. So well played from Epsilon there, taking their defensive rounds 5-1. How is that going to translate into the attack though? That's the question.
Well, one thing that we did see quite a lot yesterday, I say quite a lot, we saw it a few times yesterday, it was Shermie bringing the Ying, and unfortunately what we also then saw was Shermie not really getting much ground with the Ying. It seemed to struggle as part of Epsilon's push and part of their attack against Dislown, who were pretty much set up and ready to break it, and they actually did better when they took it off. However, obviously, so far, the game and the heat that they've managed to bring and the momentum they've managed to bring has worked very, very well for them. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see, and I say that word too many times, what Shermie intended with this Ying setup along the rest of the team. And maybe Consolate's just a map where you can get a little bit more life into it. But, as we said before, they are now playing against XTreme setup. They're playing against XTreme's defense. This is where, theoretically, XTreme should be at their strongest.
Yeah, I think this certainly plays into XTreme hands. As we've said, we've seen Epsilon on the defense. They're able to largely dictate the flow of play, largely able to take the gunfights that they want, but Madman moves in and gets a headshot onto Liven there, so that shows that even on the attack, they are using that information well and getting in to challenge people as and when they please. Shermie with a second onto Lion, Astro onto Yogurts. I cannot call these out fast enough. XTreme at this point are just crumbling. They're on the top floor and they now find themselves within the first minute of the round down to a 2 versus 5. We've got Fisker on the Legion over in admin. I was going to say I'm not sure Epsilon know he's there, but given the way that they've attacked so far, I think they probably will. But what a great impact nade from the Legion. Moves in and gets himself a quick double K, 2 headshots, and that will certainly announce his presence in admin. He's just going to get himself into that break and copy room area to slow things down so that he's not immediately challenged. Now they need to start playing for time, coming towards 1 minute 30, and they have definitely got a chance to close out this defense here.
Well, talk about an impact frag. And talk about impact frags. That was absolutely exceptional, and we've so many times commented on the roam clear not being strong enough, you could say, from XTreme, and look at that. They are living in that roam for that round. Brilliantly clawed their way back into this and making sure it's not over yet. There's still, again, a minute 10 as Renshiro tries to hold the top of yellow. Madman is looking for this battle, though, with Fisker, who is slightly deeper in, but Fipsy is the one that pings round the corner inside the point, and it is suddenly down to Renshiro with a beast of a gun. Misses the rotate, but catches the second half. Almost gets Milan, but Milan is just a bit too sharp for him.
Again, well played by Epsilon there. They did exactly what they needed to do. They pushed the rotate and they pushed the bathroom at the same time. So, yeah, as you say, Maestro with the Alder has definitely got the gun to win in that situation. But it was just impossible for him because he had to hit shots over into bathroom. He had to swing onto rotation. It was just a great pinch. And again, well played from Epsilon. So 6-1 now, and they really are running over things. And from what I can see here, I tell you what, I don't half fancy them on border as well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to keep repeating ourselves, but I feel like we've got to, because Border is a map that they wanted to go to, Border is a map that they won yesterday, and Border is a map that enjoys this play style that they're bringing, because they are really bringing it to XTreme, and I don't know, they're XTreme themselves, they're just kind of, they're not really lit up, they're not really finding their feet in the ground and inside the game. They're kind of struggling to respond, and it's almost like they're a bit beaten down, and you can never really get that feeling with Siege. And don't get me wrong, obviously we are all well aware they are a team that has a long history with this game. They've played on the grandest of stages and beat some of the grandest of teams, but at this moment in time you kind of look at their play style and how much they're kind of just almost resigning themselves to a lot of gunfight fates. Now, one thing that is worth mentioning, and I'm not using this as a complete excuse, but they are not playing with their standard 5. The coach is sitting in on Voi's spot, and Voi, as we said before, is a big part of their team because he is the he's the 4th highest total planter inside the entire season of CCS, and he is the 2nd highest on their team, getting their fuser down 6 times. So he is a part of their tactics, and they are without him. Instead, it's a coach. You know, I'm not, again, trying to make a full excuse, but it's always worth considering that they could be a little bit more beaten down because of that. And the next map, I'm hoping we see the XTreme we are all much more familiar with.
Yeah, we might definitely see a different XTreme coming out, like you say, especially if they're trying to play a more objective-based game rather than they're not winning the gunfights at the minute. So that might just facilitate them in doing that a little bit more. But that being said, at the minute, it doesn't feel like one player is the difference here. You know, unless that player is some sort of crazy fragger like a Kanto or a Ketty or somebody who's just going to come out and absolutely shut Epsilon down. Because at the minute, they're just very quickly, I mean, that last round, we're finding ourselves less than a minute in, and they were down to 5 versus 3. That said, Fisker and Renshiro coming out with 2 headshots, 1 apiece, and that will bring us to 5 versus 1 very quickly, with Yogurts and Renshiro getting another 1 apiece. So that will now leave us with only 1 attacker. Fipsy has it all to do here, and this is more what I expected from XTreme when they got themselves on the defense, was just to be able to take a little bit more command over these situations and just be able to force the angles and choose their gunfights rather than having to play at the pace of the defenders. And I think this is probably going to be a sign. I'm going to throw it out there. I think we're going to see a bit more of this over the next couple of rounds.
And it's exactly what we need to see. Fipsy at least finds 1, but look how low Fipsy is going against Elysian as well. Just trying to do some sick tricks right now and impress the cams. all those highlight reels at home, but unfortunately I think missed all of the flash grenades. But it was a good attempt, Fipsy, at some pretty sweet tricks. Knows at this point this is a kind of bum round, and to be fair, I would say a lot of other teams of this would be, they'd take the minute, they'd sit on the back, they'd discuss tactics, but when you're 6-1 up, there's not really much to discuss. You can kind of write this round off, and I believe Liven is about to cut a man in half.
I believe you are correct, as the shotgun does the business to finish that round off for XTreme. I think that could be a little bit of a platform for them if they can get this next round now, get themselves back to 6-3 and realise that now they're on the defence, they can dictate the pace of play a little bit. I know that the attackers can rush side. I know it's down to when the attackers push it into the map, but we saw it with Epsilon. They dictated a quick pace by getting 2 or 3 out on the roam, taking those gunfights where they chose and really hassling the other team. So it forced the attackers to behave accordingly. As it stands now on the defence, we've just seen their XTreme play a bit more aggressively and just say, right, we can do the same thing. Let's get aggressive. Here's a quick 4K for you. And I think if they can keep doing that now and just dictate that pace for the attackers and not let them settle, not let them move into the map at will, then I think XTreme have a little bit more joy.
One thing it's worth mentioning as well is just seeing the kind of breakdown of operator selection. So throughout all of the rounds on attack, when XTreme's attack wasn't really coming to fruition, they generally kept the same lineout, and they generally kept the same players and the same operators, and they would keep trying and trying again. Through the 2 rounds that we have seen on attack from Epsilon, they've bought, I believe, 3 fresh operators across the balance. They're consistently changing stuff out. Now, Milon is always going to be on Twitch and always going to be on Jaeger. That's the full day of Milon. I can pull that for the 3 maps now. But the amount of operator juggling and switching that Epsilon does really plays into how they play, because it's so creative. It leaves the ground completely unguessable when it looks like they often don't even know what they want to bring. But Madman opening up against Liven, and this is them going, okay, you want to play this game? We're going to play this game. We're going to go for these battles from range, try and peek us now. And you can see the amount of open windows going against them as Liven exclaims they weren't in view of the window, but Fisker and Yogurts do not care as they find 2 more, and Fisker against Astro as well. Not a great response here. This is just turning into it's almost LATAM, the amount of long-range gun battles we are seeing right now from these windows, and there's still 2 minutes 15 left.
It's absolutely crazy how much action have we seen so far, and like you say, we've still got 2 minutes left on the clock. We're just going to see that goo mine put out there. Milon will take it out, and that's going to just give his position away and allow Fisker to move around. Great use of sound there to know where his man was, get round the corner, get the kill, and Lion will finish things off onto Madman. I really thought that was going to go in a different direction with that early kill from Madman. I thought they've done what XTreme didn't. They've, you know, recognised the aggression from the defenders and they've tempered it, but they did not temper that in the slightest. That was the equivalent of putting weak steel through cold water and it coming out an awful lot harder. That was a first kill that really could have rocked XTreme, but it certainly didn't. They really did then take the fight to Epsilon. So that leaves us 6-3 now, and as I suggested, I think that's going to be a little bit of a base now. I'm surprised to see that Lobby has been the second choice site for both of these teams, given that we've got Thermite off the board. Maybe it's that they've both got mirror-reliant strats down there, and so maybe that's why they're not going. But with that garage door a lot safer, I'm surprised to not see a little bit more garage. But we're going to see round number 10 down there right now.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, obviously, with Thermite off the board, you look at the point as being quite nice to go towards. And Echo is still on the board. Maestro's still on the board. You have the possibilities for a lot of plant denial. Yeah, you'll see some teams look off in Piano as well with a pulse and try and get some information. But as you said, we're not seeing it too often. They're much happier to play on those slightly more alive sites, slightly less boxed in sites as well, though we haven't seen the fresh new site that was added to Consolation not too long ago, the rarest of the scene sites, the old up-down archives Hellas one. But here we see yet again XTreme setting up. There is the amazing Rainbow's Magic smoke skin, which is maybe the best skin in the game.
Certainly doesn't offer much in the way of camouflage, I don't think. I can't think of many locations around the maps where that pink is going to blend in nicely. But yeah, Renshiro obviously favouring that one. And it is an absolute cracker, let's be honest. It's nice to see that little bit of fun in the game as well, because that's what it's all about after all. So we're going to look at round number 10 then. We've got Epsilon on the attack again. And what can they do differently here? I think they need to get back to a position whereby they're taking the gunfights on their terms again. We saw them really benefit from that during the first 6 rounds when they were on defense. They went on the roam heavily and they just basically ran towards any noise that the attackers made, and they went and attacked them themselves, and it paid dividends for them. As it stands, now that they're on the attack, they don't have as much of a choice because they're the ones having to move into the defenders' crosshairs. That is not benefiting them at all. I'd like to see, and it looks like Sherman might be doing this off in the background as the Thatcher. I'd like to see the attackers maybe moving in from the absolute opposite end of the map. Just get themselves into the map safely, in numbers, and then start to push together so that they can then take on those gunfights on their own terms, rather than we just hear the Nomad air jab go off. But how about that for cover from Renshiro as Fipsy tries to dive in through the garage? He would have had a free kill there, but Renshiro just managing to get there on the smoke and get that angle from Pipes. Fantastically watching over his teammate there. So halfway into the round now, 5 versus 4 in favour of the defenders, and XTreme looking like a different team at the minute.
Well, I know it didn't come to fruition, but I absolutely love what Fipsy attempted there. That was a really, really clever use of the Nomad, and that's one of the things I like to see, that she's now allowed to be played in this level of competition. But here comes Lion battling over the top Hibana hole. Obviously, Hibana not giving them the clearest entrance as they try and creep through. Smoke takes a shoulder full of bullets, but does actually survive. No, does get dropped in the end, sorry, by Astro, who picks up from the other side and has now creeped back up to West Corridor, worried about someone rotating in from the circular lobby. Steps. Shermy pushes hard. They do have Lion, I believe, or Laban even, just buried around the corner as well in Locker Hallway. The slow creep, but Shermy finds the frag and Fisker gets the trade-off, pushing alongside. Now they're returning over to yellow, but Lion takes Milan. It is just Astro with 30 seconds. Oh, does find Legion, and it is a very low health Lion against the half health Astro, but no, Lion finds Astro, closing off a round that was easily the closest, I would say, Epsilon have looked over the past few.
Definitely closer than we've seen so far, but Epsilon again still not really having the answer to the defensive strategy that XTreme are now able to bring. It's interesting if we look towards the potential of overtime. I don't want to wish it upon us for map number 1, but if we do look there, this really could come down to who gets what in terms of attack and defense. Both of these teams far more proficient on the defense so far, where they're able to fight on their own terms, and whoever gets those 2 defensive rounds on the overtime could find themselves at a significant advantage. But how about this, Fluke? A little bit of a change up here. We've got Alibi and Kavera joining us for the first time today.
Well, Kavera. Now, a lot of people can say a lot of things about the use of that operator. And again, on a map like this, I think it really plays into her favor. She has a lot of space to be able to move up and down. Less is seen, I would say, when they are holding this top floor point. But with how aggressive Epsilon have been trying to enter the building and get to point, if Liven plays this clever, which Liven is someone with a lot of the game sense to do, could be absolutely brutal in tearing apart a defense. Obviously bringing the shotgun too to keep it open. You only really need that Bison pistol to drop anybody from any range in a lot of these firefights, but I assume Liven is going to dig themselves right down in that basement, wait a bit, allow them to get some ground in, make them feel a bit comfortable, and then strike when they need to, because even just on this point, we've seen them suffer from not getting a good enough roam clear. Lion with the run out, though, from the point, drops Madman, drops those useful Capital smokes, and importantly, drops that diffuser onto the ground.
That is an awful lot of utility lost here, especially with the recent changes to Capitao that have seen him, I would argue, become even more powerful. His asphyxiating bolts now covering a much larger area than they have done previously. If you could get Capitao up onto potentially the console office windows safely, with 2 smokes and 2 asphyxiating bolts, you can completely lock down that site in order to get the diffuser down. And Milon is just going to be too slow there on the defender that is ran outside. So again, that is a missed opportunity for a kill. Fisker getting in with a kill onto Astro, and that leaves us now 4 versus 1 in favour of XTreme. And they have certainly had enough of the runaround for today and are really starting to clutch onto this match and say this is ours now. Milon, I think, is aware of somebody down at the bottom of the yellow stairs there. Looks like Alibi to me, although it won't be because Alibi is dead, so it's more than likely the Caveira. As it is, the Caveira moves in, and I think he had the shotgun there. It's a 1-shot onto Milon, and that will be a nice finish for XTreme, 6-5. And these match points are slipping away from Epsilon very, very slowly here.
Well, I mean, we talk about the amount of time that there was max OT yesterday, and boy, it looks like we're hurtling towards another one. Obviously, one of the things that we said on that 5-1 split was this is where XTreme are going to suffer on their attacks against the defense that is as fluid as it is, because they are a team that likes a bit of structure, likes a bit of cohesion in what they're doing, and kind of relying on these defined ideas and defined strategies. And at the same time, this is it in full effect. Sure, they lost that very first one, but since then it has been a consistent run that has generally, across 3 of the 4 rounds, looked completely in control. They've never really suffered or stuttered at all, and they are now just 1 round away from bringing this to OT. Kaid swapped out for Caveira yet again. Obviously, they're going to take this lobby point as well, setting up the Maestro cams, and yet again, as Epsilon are consistently rotating their operator sledges on the board. They still have the Ash that Shermie is now picking up instead of Astro. You know, it's they're trying to find some life in this, but XTreme, they've woken up. They've shown the team that they can be, and I think most importantly, it looks like they're enjoying themselves now, because that first half, they looked like they were kind of not really wanting to be here. They were not bringing that kind of fire that we're used to them seeing. And sure, you can lose rounds, but you can lose rounds with energy and without. And this is them having a good time on this consular.
Yep, it certainly is. So looking towards round number 12, this is the last regulation time round that we are going to have, and it's Epsilon's final chance. They have won 1 round on the attack so far, and that was on the console office. So there is really no precedent for them coming and winning this here. XTreme have already successfully defended all sites, and Epsilon really do need more than anything to just get themselves the first couple of kills. That's the thing they've really been suffering to, not being able to win those gunfights that they were taking such good advantage of early in the game. So if they can do that, Shermie's got the information here. He knows that somebody's playing up in meeting. He's going to roll the floor from underneath. Is that going to give him an opportunity to get a frag? Possibly not. Lion, meanwhile, gets the headshot on to Astro. So I'm, again, a little bit surprised there. We've seen somebody on the drone and not made any direct approach to really challenge them. Meanwhile, they've also lost a man. And that just seems to me completely at odds to what Epsilon were doing in the early game here. They were just running and taking every challenge they could. Meanwhile, though, Milon and Madman certainly fighting for this one. Go out and get themselves a kill apiece. So that is going to bring us to 4 versus 3, but we've got Milon extremely low health now, down to about 5 hit points by the looks of things. The defenders, they've got 1 off-site. Liven on the Caveira is still going to be causing a nuisance of himself. Shermie is aware that he's around somewhere, I think, and he's looking, but Lion will get the kill onto Shermie, and that is going to open things up for the defenders a little bit now. Liven must be dealt with.
Ooh, and getting taken care of a goo, that's always a tough thing. You can see that Doc heard that and is creeping slowly and slowly further around Piano. Doesn't know that they are just behind that soft wall, and there it is. Renshiro finds one. Fipsy with the trade, and it's a 2 versus 1 with a minute left. Has the diffuser in hand, but that Maestro cam more than gives away his position there. Going to rotate back around towards a point. Now, Lion is still holding the point. Here's the distant Nomad go off. Finds a battle against the Doctor. And the Doctor does a lot more damage than Fipsy manages back. But there's still 30 seconds on the table. And Kavera needs to do something. But XTreme bring us to OT.
They certainly do, and not too much of a surprise. The defence has been very, very good there. And I just have to hark back to what I said at the beginning there. Shermy gets the drone onto Doc, knows that he's on top floor, has a reasonable idea he's possibly up there alone. No challenge is made onto the Doc directly. Look what happens later in the round. The Doc moves into Piano, gets himself an easy 2k onto a couple of the players and swings it to 3 versus 1 in his team's favour. That's pretty much the end of the round at that point. And I just don't feel that that is the Epsilon that we saw in the first few rounds. They were seeing players, they were absolutely running at them hell for leather and taking those challenges on, whereas now they just seem to be on the back foot a little bit, maybe a little bit shaken. They've lost 5 of the last 6 rounds, and XTreme have the advantage. They go on to defense first.
That was exactly what I was about to say. The coin flip was a big factor in this. Obviously, we look at how this is balanced across being defender-sided. Defenders in total have taken 10 of the 12 rounds, and they've both been taking them very convincingly as well. Even when it comes down to a 2 versus 1, like we have just seen, it's still in the defender's favor. They're normally still set up on the point. Their diffuser is nowhere near across the 12 rounds so far. We've only ever seen it go down once, and even then it was in the final 5 seconds of the round. So if anything, this is XTreme's to lose right now.
We've seen XTreme defend this site 3 times so far. The first time was won by Epsilon, and then the second 2 after that, sorry, the second and third after that were won by XTreme. So they've certainly sorted some things out, and this is no surprise to see. Renshiro taking some shots on the Echo there, but literally my next sentence was going to be the difference between that first round and the second and third was that we saw XTreme come out and be much more aggressive. We saw some runouts, we saw an absolute flurry of kills to hit a quick 4k in the first time that we saw it defended successfully, and that is something that XTreme are obviously remembering, so don't be surprised to see more aggression from them. It looks like Liven on the Kavera is downstairs in the basement area. He's not been droned out yet, and it looks like he has got himself out of dodge as well, so he is not going to be seen. Yogurts gets the first kill, this time onto Shermy, and that is traded straight back out by Madman, so good attacking there. It looks like we are aware of the presence of an XTreme defender out there in the Piano area, but Lion will get the kill onto Astro. How about that for a reverse peak on that angle? And he's there to challenge his second, starts firing bullets through the soft wall. Meanwhile, are they aware of Liven on the flank here? He is so close to these operators pushing from the yellow stairs area. He goes into silent step, and if he can move himself through, Madman does get the kill onto Lion, and that just causes Liven to back off a little bit there. I think he wanted that attention being played to Lion if he was going to make that attack. But as it stands, he's just going to play a patient game, bide his time. He's got Fipsy moving towards him. I don't think Fipsy is aware of the Kavera's location, but he will move around and get the kill. Great reactions from Fipsy there. He knew there was somebody, he just didn't know exactly where, but he played it right. He checked his corners, and he got the kill. Great start from Epsilon.
Well, we can now see Fisker is setting himself up on the top of yellow stairs. 3 against 2, but Legion and Echo, they are 2 operators that are dangerous to still have up, and we have seen them many times win many rounds, just being the last ones remaining. Now, pings are coming out for Madman, and obviously he suffered straight away, and losing the smokes in a smoke plant kind of style was a big loss, but here they go, gonna fire the fire into it as well, allow them to swing in. You can see the rotation from Fisker towards those stairs, gets some shots into the side of Madman, who's not quite comfortable, and Malone suffers Renshiro, but Fipsy picks up the trade now and is actually going to move to the other spawn point, other plant point even, and try and get it down. The diffuser is being planted. Fisker throws the impact to try and throw it off. Can the coach pull out the moves that need to be done as the diffuser goes down, and we enter this post-plant situation? One on long desk who is lucky to get the rotation out of there, but Fipsy is even luckier as he spins around and takes Fisker out on the top of yellow stairs.
That could be exactly what Epsilon needed if they want to take this first map, stepping out and taking control of the fixture by getting that attacking win. Only the second one that we've seen them achieve in 7 rounds. But they got the diffuser down. That's the first time that we've seen that from Epsilon, getting themselves into the objective. It was all a little bit haphazard, let's be honest. The smoke went in, the fire arrows went in, but still the plant didn't go down. He was obviously very conscious of the defender out on the stairs that was able to fire through the rotation. But I just think with the Capitão, if he moves himself far enough into sight, basically just past the corner of the desk, he's safe to plant there because he's got the smokes down, he's got the asphyxiating bolts. So the only angle he's realistically going to be challenged from is yellow stairs at that point. So if he's quick enough, he takes an extra 4 or 5 steps and still gets the diffuser down. As it was, I'm not going to say that he panicked, but he did react quite strongly to that player out on the yellow stairs, and it just meant he had to sort of change things up on the fly, but he got himself into meeting room and got the job done. So great plays from Madman there to just snatch that one out for his team. And now we're going to see Epsilon back on the defence, and this is certainly where they were more comfortable. I'm sure they're going to be looking for Milon to get on that roam game again. We've got 3 ACOGs. What does that tell you about early aggression?
Well, we gotta look at how this game has gone to understand this 3 ACOGs. Although Epsilon were playing this exceptionally aggressive game, they weren't really doing anything towards the spawn points. They weren't really going for any spawn picks or anything like that. But then they instantly suffered that, and they suffered that a couple of rounds in the row, and we know that they're a team that is more than happy to go for spawns and go for picks and go for those early fights. And I think that is their response, and they're going to try and find more of this range and more of this depth. As we said, currently this map is in their hands. They're the ones who can drop this. Yogurts is preparing for the run out from those 2 windows. Really nice nomad placement as they're trying to open up, and gets the one on shower as well. But here comes that mounting pressure. Now, this is when we started to actually see XTreme do well, was their setups and their kind of hammer and anvil strategy of, oh, missed their own drone, unfortunately, but they're allowing themselves to kind of hold angles, let Epsilon go wide, let them go for these wider peaks that they keep doing quite frequently, and then pick them off in those movements, pick them off at those times. But if anything, although I've said they've had 3 ACOGs, this is a very reserved Epsilon we're seeing.
Certainly more reserved than we've seen them on the defence previously, but there's more at stake now, and they want to close this out. They do not want to have to try and finish this off on attack, I'm sure. So they're going to be keen to waste as much time as possible, but that then does make it feel like an awfully long round. We're now into sort of only just having cleared the minute mark, so they've still got an awful lot of time to burn here, but so far so good. Madman just holding Yogurts out of there. He's going to make a challenge on the bathroom window and then get himself back to safety, and again he's just halting that progress, and that is something that Epsilon have done well so far. But we can see IQ now just having a bit of joy up at the top of yellow stairs, getting shots onto Astro, but taking a few hit points of damage for her trouble as well. We can see Milon downstairs just taking that drone out, and then a fantastic kill onto the Lion, and that is what we have seen from Milon all through this fixture so far, and that is a bit more of it as well as he jumps out and gets the kill onto Fisker. That's a double kill. Will it be a triple for Milon? No, it won't. We saw 1 kill go down onto Epsilon, the Maestro off the board, so that could be a big one. But we are now 4 versus 3, 57 seconds to go, and XTreme's ability to execute in the last 20 seconds, let me tell you, is going to be tested again right now.
Well, there is Astro finding Yogurts, and it is becoming this harder and harder situation for Liven and Ranshiro. 2 partners and 2 big dogs from the old days creeping up, trying to find Milon, who has been an unbelievable force in this ending round. And as we said at the very, very beginning, he's going to pick Twitch, he's going to pick Jaeger, and he is going to pick players, and that is what he is doing time and time and time again. Takes care of the echo, but 20 seconds on the clock, and this is a horrible position to be in with the diffuser cold and outside. You've got to get it in, you've got to get it to point, and there's still 4 operators, there's an echo, there's gunners, there's everything on the table you don't want to face as you're going for a split push as well via admin. Gonna try and take long desk battle, find nobody, they're just sitting and waiting, and they're not. Epsilon shut down this first map, take Consular out of the hands of XTreme, and they are ready and heated up to swing us the border.
They are going on to border hot indeed, but that was a hard-fought game. Whichever way you look at it, 8-6 is never a clear-cut result. We saw Epsilon come out and take a very commanding lead 5-1 on their defence, but then they suffered the return result and went 1-5 on their attack, which allowed XTreme to push it to overtime. But we saw a great example play out there of what we were saying, and that was that Epsilon want to take the gunfights. They want to get themselves into the mix. They want to be aggressive. And when they could do that on defense at their own sort of pleasure, then they had a lot of success. When XTreme got themselves onto the defense and could set the strategy and play the tactics, they had a lot more success, just in a slightly different way. Great play. Great example of Siege for me there. And that has been a fantastic first map to this.
Well, that is exactly what we wanted to see. And hey, the roll of overtime is going to keep going. But in between these overtimes, we will be taking a very quick 5-minute break. As we said before, the coach was only in for one map. We're about to see the full strength XTreme as Voy is returning to the table. But you're going to have to hang on just 5 minutes. And we'll meet you in the border.
Hello everyone and welcome back to CCS EU Season 2, CCS Season 4 overall, just to confuse things a little bit. I am still Isabara, and next to me is still Captain Fluke.
Pleased to be here, pleased to be back, and they've actually apparently got my right name on the screen. I am not Exotrica. Yeah, I don't actually know what side you're on. I think you're on my right side. You're normally on my left. I've been gesturing to a wall this entire time. But it is Captain Fluke, and it is a pleasure to be here. We just had the first map of this battle for 3rd place, and it was on Consulate, and it came down to overtime, not max OT, 6-8, that's a standard OT, and it was Epsilon that managed to creak it out. But if we have a quick look at how we got there and where we're about to go on the map bans, we can kind of see how this has come to fruition.
Looking then, we can see that we had our picks were Border and Consulate. So we've just played out Consulate. We're going to be heading on to Border. And then Decider, if needed, will be Coastline. And we discussed this earlier on, that XTreme will favour maps more by where strategy is coming into play and teamwork, as Epsilon have not had too much time to scrim together as a team. And generally you look across the players and they certainly excel in the gunfights. And that's exactly what we've just seen played out on Consulate. But Epsilon managed to flip it on its head in a map that we maybe would have given to XTreme beforehand. They've managed to come in and take, even after a difficult attacking phase. So I'm sure they're going to be looking for more of the same here. I believe they're starting on the attack on Border. So this one could be a bit trickier for Epsilon, just given if we look at what happened on Consulate, if they come in and have a difficult time on attack, it then puts them on the back foot. And they've not really played from that position massively yet. So we'll have to see how they do.
One of the things to note as well on Coastline is it's very much a map that can become quite malleable to teams that are quite confident. And where we saw on the previous one, obviously, most of the rounds, 11 of the rounds went to defense. His confidence started to come from both sides. But let's see how they handle this Border. Now, the last bans we had come through, it was the pick against Renshiro, Blackbeard taken off the table, Therm, Valk, and Mira. I feel like we're going to see some slight differences here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we will do. I would expect to see Echo or Maestro off the board, particularly probably Maestro this time. But on the attacking side, we have seen a little bit more prevalence for hard breach bans on Border recently. Even seeing the double hard breach at times. And here we go. Number 1 comes in and we get the Hibana ban. So that's keeping those hatches safe for when you're on the downstairs defences. Although they're quite often opened up so that you can rotate back to site quickly yourself. There is another strategy there of closing them off, fighting to the death up there and wasting as much time as you can do. But we'll have to see how that plays out now. Hibana has been taken off the board, and it's as if I called it, Captain. It's as if I called it.
You ever thought about getting into casting? You might be quite good at the analysis side, but
Ooh-wee, just wait for Maestro now.
Here we come into the defender bans. Now, obviously, taking both those hard destruction makes that armory point upstairs. It kind of forces decisions to be made. It really channels and forces the players to go away. Mira, that is an expected removal as well. Can the ever predicting abilities of Pyrite come through here on this 4th as XTreme take a little bit of time. Now, obviously, if you think so far, the only one that has, well, Valk was taken out last time, and Blackbeard as well, who is now free for Renshiro to have a play with, and could really help their attack. But Jaeger is taken out by XTreme Video.
Okay, Jaeger, not one that we see too often. In fact, I think that's one of the first times I've ever seen Jaeger banned out. Those ADSs certainly have value on Border, particularly keeping players behind half wall safe, keeping players in the fountain area safe potentially, although that's more commonly a strategy used when you have a mirror on the board. But again, keeping players in office safe as well. So there is some real value to those Jaeger ADSs, and it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what that does to the attacking lineup without him on. I can see this time we don't have any nades coming in. I was expecting maybe to see a little bit more Buck, a little bit more Sledge potentially, and just really put use to not having those ADSs, because let's not forget, Jaeger is the only operator who can do that job in taking projectiles out.
Now, one thing I will say about that is, and I commented on this before, was they occasionally have an idea to bring Ying, especially Shermie likes to roll with that, and with Jaeger off the board, and they've already slightly suffered a Ying, but again, didn't really come to full kind of fruition for them. I don't know. I think taking the Jaeger off, for me, would go, okay, well, maybe now the Ying's going to work. Maybe this is when we retry the Ying strategy. And instead, they've gone with Monty, an operator that we've not seen them play at all over the past 2 days.
I tell you something else that's worth noting as well. Just looking at the way those bans have played out, XTreme being the defensive team will have had the second defender ban and have taken Jaeger. I tell you now, that's a target ban. That's a target ban against Milon. We've just seen him have an absolute field day on the Jaeger, and I'm sure at this point XTreme is just trying to disrupt Milon once he gets onto the defence. I think they're hoping to get themselves a good 4-2, 5-1 lead here in the defensive phase, and then really disrupt what was a game-changing player in that first map.
Well, that was exactly it. I did say earlier, if there's two operators you're going to see from him every single round, it's Jaeger and it's Twitch, and they've gone, hang on, let's exploit that. Let's not bring it Jaeger. Let's kind of play out of that. Let's throw them off and throw them into a harder position, because they haven't really relied on a Jaeger too much. XTreme have been more than happy to kind of play their way without the Jaeger, keep themselves a bit of control. And Epsilon, however, still has those opening rounds as Twitch and does it very effectively, dropping yogurts. But there is the smoke pushing Madman out of archives as Jeremy tries to fire over the shoulder and get a bit of that precious vertical control. Bitsy is the one to take out Frenchiro.
So we are looking now 1 minute into the round, and we've got a second XTreme player down. Good start to the attack. However, Lion and Voice here, we are going to have our say about that. Get in with a kill each, and that brings us back to 3 versus 3. We've got Lion on the pulse there, just feeding information frantically back into his team as to where this push is going to be coming. We've got Voy in officers just looking to challenge there, getting shots onto a drone as he dips back towards site. And you know, sometimes you've got to take the risk of going for these unpopular sites to begin with, but we're going to have Madman going in under the cover of smoke, and this could really change things for Epsilon here. We've seen Tellers being a popular first site on Border. It's difficult. It's not a real loss as a team to lose Tellers, because you don't expect to win it, so it doesn't have a big mental impact. You've not lost Armory, you've not lost one of your top sites. Voy with a kill onto Astro there. So we've definitely seen a prevalence towards this site, but we're going to see Madman taking a very hard defense over this diffuser with the Monty there, just getting himself locked right into the corner. And they've only got about another 15 or 20 seconds to play out here. We've got Shermy on the Blackbeard outside, just holding things down. Pulses unable to really approach that. Oh, there we go. We've got the smoke kill coming in onto Madman there. That's going to allow one of the XTreme boys live and gets in on the diffuser, but will be killed off it. Shermy has just won things for his team there without enough time for the defenders. He knew that he was giving his life up in order to do that, but it just didn't matter. That is great game sense from Shermy there to close things out for the attackers. And how about a back and forth round?
Well, that was so close. You can see the Blackbeard panicking, swapping around to the bigger gun there, and it's just unbelievable moment to open that round. And at first, when Monty had dug in, I thought it was all over, and it just wasn't. They managed to smoke him out and get him out of there, and they're going to roll with the Monty strategy again, but we're going to go to the different point. We're going to go to Vent and Workshop, and I assume we're going to see them try to roll in via Vent window, but again, you've got to put that pressure on above first as well. You've got to start throwing them out of those angles, because there's only so many times that they can keep that Monty kind of play and Monty strategy up before you can see a team like XTreme finding answers and finding responses for those kind of movements. Voy, again, is up in the team now as well, bringing the castle and filling those kind of support and utility roles and those kind of tactical roles that, as I said before, has been a big part of his place inside XTreme. And for a team that does kind of thrive around tactics, it's a nice thing to see. But again, there is Malone setting those drones up. Fipsy is ready to push against this vent window as well, and I feel like this is where we're going to start to see Monty roll up against.
Yeah, and they are certainly going to have to find an answer to him, but like you said, if any team can, a team like XTreme are surely the ones. They've got the experience, they've played against Monties before, they've played against every setup before, so I would expect them to come out and do something, but are they going to expect it? I think once it comes out here in the second round, then you start thinking, this is something this team are doing, and repeat. We've got the castle downstairs now, just castling off that ventilation window. That might not be a terrible idea, although the popular plant spot within ventilation is actually just inside a single door a lot of the time, because it means you can't be challenged from above, or certainly not as easy. We're going to see Lion there on the Kapkan just getting good shots into the players up on that balcony and manages to get the kill onto Shermie, but that will be traded straight out by the Nomad of Fipsy. So that is going to leave us now 4 versus 4, only 30 seconds in, and kills are raining in. We're going to have Madman moving up to the top of these stairs now, so he's actually working more in a roam clear sort of role than about getting in and getting that diffuser down too quickly. Milon with a kill onto Yogurt, so that brings us to 4 versus 3. Voy will take heavy damage there on the castle, and that will leave him only 1 bullet away from losing his life. Renshiro just looking to peek at that main door. A minute in, there's been an awful lot of action so far. 4 versus 3, Epsilon in the ascendancy again.
Well, Ivan is still trying to feed some information about what is going on above to the rest of the team. Finally finds a heartbeat, and it is Monty's. They're trying to dig across Tellers. I called it wrong. They're actually going to push the bathroom instead. Here's the shield go in around the bathroom. If they can play this right, and he almost does. Monty is so close to death. Just a breeze would take him out. Astro trying to cover the side as Manon finds Void, and Renshiro finally shuts off. Monty now is dug in inside Workshop, looking for the push as Liven rotates around the side, but Fipsy has great cover from those central stairs, and now it's just down to the Valkyrie against the world, and Milon unfortunately is a bit too much to handle inside this Workshop.
Too much to handle indeed, and Epsilon once again coming out very strong, much as they did last time. Are we going to see the same situation where they come out very strong on the attack and then struggle on the defense? Who knows? It's just really an unpredictable team at the minute, and that is sort of to be expected from a team that maybe don't have as much time together as everybody else. You can't always second guess what they're going to do, how they're going to play, because they're just sort of doing things on the fly a little bit as well. But great players so far from Epsilon, and the thing is, they just don't look like losing a gunfight every time. I mean, what a great kill from Lion. Let's, give him his due there. He got the kill on the Kapkan. He was downstairs in the waiting area, got the kill up onto those single windows near the secondary ventilation units on the balcony there. Fantastic kill. You're going to lose that angle more often than not. But straight away, bang, in comes the Nomad, straight traded out. And we're seeing that time and time again. Even when they do lose the gunfight, they've always got somebody there ready to trade it out.
Well, we can see now they are setting up for this third hold, and even though they've lost the first 2, they've kept themselves rotating the points. And one thing I am pretty curious about is even with the double hard destruction off the table, they are not heading up to Armory, which personally I would have expected as the first go-to with both Hibana and Thermite off the table. Instead, they're kind of keeping these very wide points. They're trying to rely on strategies instead. They're actively rotating the points, whether they win or lose as well. So I'm curious to see if they do go to Armory and how that manages to hold up, because hey, it's old familiar for a reason. It really can lock out the defenders, the attackers even. And with, obviously, mirrors unexpected off the table, Jaeger might make it exceptionally hard to cover a smoke push as they go through the door, and that could be what bites them really bad about it. But it's just then a battle of sound, a battle of attrition, a battle of listening. But here comes that familiar Monty push. I feel like we're going to see the entire time. But Lion with the C4 drops Astro, and that is Monty's right-hand man taken off the table, and they're going to have to wait for Fipsy to come and back up. Concerned about someone rotating via east stairs as Madman backs his way, and Shermie does balance it out, taking care of Legion, which is a very nice take upstairs, pushing from the southern balcony towards CCTV and Sec. They see that there's a bit open on 90 and are ready to put pressure towards Armory Lockers, but Liven and Renshiro are actually going to rotate back into Sec, giving them the illusion that it was clear, where in fact, oh no, it's full of defenders now.
It certainly is, but I'm sure Milon will be aware of that by now. Just going to check his drones, but have any available. A great C4 toss from the Pulse, but I'm sure if he could have made the choice of who he killed out of the Ash or the Monty, it would probably have been the Monty. Ash, not always the biggest loss. You get her in there, if she can get 2 or 3 kills, then great. Milon ready for Renshiro there, and absolutely deletes him on the run out, so that will be another kill going in the favour of Epsilon. We've got a couple of low HP operators, given that all the defenders are on full life at this point. We've got Madman just raining hip-fire shots in there. He's going to have to be very lucky to get any joy from those. But we are 4 versus 3, and that is at least an advantage in terms of guns for Epsilon. They've got some good map control here. Milon is on top of that hatch now, and he's just able to look down into sight and start cutting off those rotations. They really are going to need to make some sort of challenge on that, and just as I speak, that's a perfect example of why they needed to make a challenge on that. Milon getting the kill onto Lion, and that's going to allow Madman in to start thinking about getting that diffuser down. He will back out initially and could well just be baiting out those toxic bays, but that's a great double kill from Liven there, and Voy moves in and gets the kill onto Madman. That drops the diffuser, and all of a sudden within 5 seconds things have massively swung in favour of XTreme, but Shermie says not today, gets the kill onto Voy, and that now leaves a 75-80 HP Blackbeard up against about a 20 HP Valk. This is all in his favour. He gets himself a fresh face shield on. He's got time to get his drone in there, 20 seconds. Valkyrie Liven using all his experience here. He knows that he needs to stay alive, and he gets the kill as Shermie drops, and that was the only way that he could end that, was to wait for the Blackbeard to be incapacitated whilst dropping and take the challenge then. Perfectly played by Liven.
Wow, we enter now into a much better swap than it was before, but obviously last time at the changing the half it was a 5-1 to 1 team, and then it came back all the way to a 6-6. So between these two teams, I think it's one of those kind of games where it's never really over. But look at Milon lighting up on the IQ, 6-2. Madman is playing a very important role, so don't look too strong at that 0. But the big change here is, well, unless it gets 6 picked out, is Maverick from Astro. The first showing of any sort of hard destruction on the table, and the only guy allowed in the room with anything that can bite through those reinforced walls. Maybe they expected us to go to Armory because of the point rotations, but here we are instead going to that bathroom tellers.
Yeah, I think they definitely did expect the Armory defense this time. I don't know, XTreme just don't seem to want to play there. I know that the Jaeger isn't available, and it does impact on that site a little bit. As you say, it's then possible to maybe rain a few smokes in through there, or get some nades in behind half wall and make it difficult to hold. Is it so difficult that you would avoid it completely as a site in favour of tellers and bathroom, for example, where you've already lost? I'm not too sure it would be. I'm a little bit surprised to see, but they've obviously got a gameplay in mind here of XTreme. I think if Epsilon can come in and take this one, though, they're going to be very happy with that for the first 4 rounds, going 3-1 and getting themselves to at least guaranteeing a share of the spoils in this first half. But Astro will certainly not be wasted on this side. He can get himself up along that double wall that will most likely be reinforced into tellers, and just put his Maverick torch to some good use there. If it's left soft, then they will just be able to use the normal weapons to do that anyway. And to be honest, I think with Madman on the Monty again, we're going to see a very similar push. We can already see him approaching that single window.
Well, yeah, here comes the pressure from Astro. It looks like they want to do the same thing as you said, trying to break open those sidelines that became the decider of the round towards the end, as they were able to grab the Blackbeard in, get the diffuser down, and then stop the defusing going off. Renshiro is above, waiting for the entrance here. Monty is going for the plant, but the bullets are ricocheting off the shield. Smoke manages to find something, and it is cooking away at Madman's health, but he just gets out of there in the littlest amount of time and health left. And they managed to lock off 2 of those frags, smoke off the table. Easily the biggest take there, but there is still at least Lion with some lesions to be able to potentially end that shield if they need to. Voy is going to creep up a bit closer now, try and put some aggression against it. Concerned about someone coming in from behind. Renshiro suffers the Nomad and picked up by that pistol from Madman. Great combination. Legion just charges in. They know they have the side cover in Epsilon. Use it very well.
Perfect execution from Epsilon there. as we suggested before the round started, really. Just got themselves in through the single window again with the Monty. Got the plant down. Great awareness from Madman to know that he had the time to get that diffuser down. I don't think he was too worried about getting out of the window. I think that was a little bonus for him, if anything. You know, I'm sure that he fully expected to be giving up his life in order to get that diffuser down, but it got the job done, and that was the important thing there. So great plays again from Epsilon to just move in quickly, very sure about the strategy they were going to undertake, and they absolutely pulled it off. Now, interesting there, Lion on the Legion. It's a difficult call to listen to, is that one, because it just makes me feel like they're making a bad operator worse. I'm thinking, what? They've given Lion goo mines now? What is going on with this guy? Like, surely the scans were enough. Just stop.
We found a way to nerf him. It's to give him someone else's ability as well. Jeez, that's a nightmare, that is.
It certainly would be. But looking towards round number 5, then we are 3-1 in favour of Epsilon. And we're still not going to see the Armory site. They obviously don't want to play there for some reason. But when you're taking Tellers and Bathroom and having it taken off you so quickly and easily, I really can't understand why you don't give top floor a try.
That's exactly it. Obviously, they're struggling so far on these defenses. The one that they did win, it came down to, as you said, Liven's his history, his professionalism, his balance of that, and how he handled himself when everything was stacked against him, arguably. And you know, the other times that it's kind of put pressure against them, they've just struggled. And having that bit of familiarity, that bit of solidity, and arguably funneling something into a frag could be what they need. But hey, it hasn't slowed down Epsilon, who opened up and removed Ren Zero, who was potentially trying some Valkyrie stuff, and they just got the tail end of the rotation back. I couldn't imagine that they were doing anything as in terms of peaking with that MPX. It would just be a waste. But talking of a waste, the Yogurts goes down as well. Legion off within the opening 30 seconds when you know that they are bringing a Monty is a horrible moment. And to be fair, saying that out loud, they are bringing the Monty, and arguably the only real slowdown they have there in terms of actually damaging them is the cap cans and C4s. I do question why they decided to remove the smoke off this lineup, because it's used once to drop Monty. Shermie takes out Live in a 5 versus 2, and again, there's another one, and it's just shut down by frags. They don't even need to really enter the build.
1 minute and 8 seconds is all it took for Epsilon to get into sight and absolutely decimate the XTreme lineup. If XTreme don't start winning rounds soon, this is going to be over in the next 3. Let me guarantee you, because they have to halt Epsilon's momentum here. Momentum is so important and dangerous in Siege, and when a team really gets the legs beneath them like this, it becomes very difficult to stop. And all I can see happening here is Epsilon move on to the defense, 5-1, take Armory as the first site, hold it, and then all of a sudden they're on match point at 6-1.
That's exactly it. I mean, as we said before, they did come back from a 5-1 before at the same time, but you don't want that to be what you rely on. You want a little bit more solidity in the rounds that you are losing as well, and so far, it's just never really been there for them. Obviously, we did just see a flawless run and round from them, and it's always been a situation where they managed to get the diffuser down twice already. The same as it was throughout the entire 14 odd rounds of the previous map that we saw. It's just, they're struggling on these defenses, and finally, they have gone up to this Armory Lockers hold.
They have, and we have been waiting for it, absolutely no question. And let's see if they get any more joy. The thing is now, they're in a tricky situation. The best that they come out with here is 4-2. And if they get the Armory Lockers defense successfully, then they start kicking themselves. Then you start asking questions about why didn't we do that sooner. Then you start getting potential bickering within the team. If somebody within the team has been saying, let's go to Armory, well, you know, why we're not going to, if it's been a split team on that decision for any reason, if they win up here now, it's almost detrimental to them, because it's just going to cause issues. We see an early kill there from Lion onto the Ash of Shermie. So that's a couple of times that we've lost Ash there. It's not always been Shermie, but she has been unfortunate first blood, but not too much of a surprise given Ash's usual role. So we can see see that we've got one player inside of security, just on the far side of those bookshelves there. I think it was Yogurt's on the Legion. I'm not sure if we're going to see a run out. Certainly looks like he's moving as if he might, but in comes the Nomad to prevent it. Nice double kill from Milon before losing his own life, but that's going to even things up. 3 versus 3 for us now. We've still got Madman on the Monty. He's not too much use for much longer. In a 3 versus 3, the Monty can definitely be used. Renshiro with a kill onto Fipsy, and that now just sort of demonstrates my point why things get difficult with the Monty now, because you're in a situation where for Monty to be useful, Astro really needs to play with him. As it is, he's out there on his own, and he's easily dealt with. Void getting the kill using those toxic phase. So once you're down to 2 men, you really don't want one of them to be Monty, because it sticks you to working as a pair and from one single location. Astro now has it all to do. 1 versus 3, 1 minute 30 to go.
I don't want to say I called it in the last round, but one thing I did comment on was why are they not bringing the smoke when they know that they're up against Monty every round? And here we see a smoke shut down a Monty doing exactly what a smoke does best. Astro finding a second frag there, bringing this from a 3 versus 1 to a 1 versus 1, but you are up against Voy, who has a huge amount of health. You have the drone, you have a minute on your side as well. This is enough time for anyone to reposition and get anywhere. Misses the drone, watches the fight, sets it up, and is still setting it up as Voy kind of swings and goes for peaks. Not 100% sure why they're going for so many spots there. Baits and puts the bullet too high, and Voy finds Astro whilst lying on the floor.
Finds him indeed, and that will keep XTreme fighting for another day. 4-2 is certainly better than 5-1, but XTreme have got big questions to be asking themselves coming out of that defensive phase. And like I said, that potentially just raises questions within the team of why did we not go to Armory Lockers sooner, being that it is one of only 2 successful defensive rounds that they've had. On the flip side, Epsilon heading straight up there. Jaeger or not, Mirror or not, they really don't mind. Milon heading himself onto the alibi with his ever so precious Jaeger taken away from him.
Well, that's it. And, you know, I'm curious to see how that translates. Frost is the first one on the board. The first time we've seen a Frost today. And this was actually something that was discussed yesterday, as where and when is Frost very good to be bought. And this, I think, is one of those points. It's nice to have her kind of catch people unaware, especially on a team that, you know, could be pushing against offices. They've instantly bought the Maverick. They're happy to play this with this hard destruction. Renshiro on the Finker as well. And again, this is another thing that we saw a lot yesterday. It didn't work so amazingly all the time. I think, and I'm assuming, going to be bringing that LMG as well, kind of leading in with a bit of Finker LMG charge. And I will say they got lucky this round. The smoke is currently off the board, but they tried it quite a lot previously, and unfortunately it didn't quite work out.
It didn't work out indeed. Like you said, playing without him definitely proved difficult. So looking towards round number 7 then, we are currently 4-2 in favour of Epsilon as they move into their defensive phase. They're going to be keen to get the first round or 2 in the books here. They've certainly gone to the strongest site on border, as it would generally be described, but we did see XTreme avoiding it given the bans that they were facing of Mirror and Jaeger. So let's see what Epsilon can do, but not too much as Renshiro moves in and gets an early kill there, but traded back out with 1 from Milon, so that leaves us now in a 4 versus 4, 30 seconds in, and kills certainly not slowing down at all.
Well, that's it, and Yogurts are setting themselves up on AC window and suffers from behind. Oh no, they had eyes on the window, but Echo of Shermie had eyes back and utilizes the time, crawling for her life. Yogurts, and gets hit by the Nomad, but no one is there to pick up that trade. Beautiful play from Shermie, a player who we have commented on time and time again at being a big part of Epsilon. Voy finds 1, almost finds a second through that Maverick hole on triple wall, but unfortunately suffers a down as Renshiro uses the Finker buff to pick the Voy back up on a sliver of health. They have the drone on the top of the circle, and Fipsy is actually going to move slightly deeper towards Canadian and now closer to the window on offices. Here's the break, but there is no peak to follow that up, and you can see that they're kind of rebalancing their push here and balancing their attack. Hit and found. Renshiro goes down, and Fipsy utilizes that alibi perfectly from Milon. peaks just as they get lit up, and now it is another stalemate. But there is still so much time on this board.
There is an awful lot of time indeed as the clock ticks down. 1 minute 10 remaining now, so that will leave us in a 2 versus 3. Voy gets the first of those to level things up. That's Fipsy going down there, so that will now leave us 2 versus 2. But what are 2 we've got left? We've got Milon left on the alibi, and that sledge is just going to allow Maverick to open things up. He could have done that anyway, so not too much benefit there. But Sherney is on the echo, let's not forget. So if a plant attempt does go down, he's still going to be able to deny that plant.
Well, it's one of those things where, you know, you kind of see as we hit finally 30 seconds, 29 seconds, 28 seconds, it's just ticking down more and more for them, with Echo firing those shots as well. They're popping grenades over the wall, or at least attempting to. There is Milon cutting out Voy, more bullets fired, and Milon from outside cuts them across.
Cuts them across indeed, and that felt like a matter of time, did that one. Epsilon certainly seemed to have it locked down. Milon just felt like he was itching to get out there and get them final kills, to be honest. But that's going to just finish things off for Epsilon there on their first defensive round 5-2, and that was the last thing that XTreme wanted to see. Bearing in mind, we saw this exact same situation last time, pretty much, whereby Epsilon came out and won that first phase after the switch, and it did nothing to slow XTreme down. They still managed to come back from that. But that being said, last time out, they were moving on to the defense, whereas this time they've moved on to the attack. And that, as we say, is just a little bit of a different situation, because the attackers have 2 things to work against, the defenders and the clock. And it just makes things a little bit more difficult for the attackers to take the initiative. It looks like we're going to be taking Anchor. We are going to take a Tachanka.
5-2 up. And yeah, this is a team that, even when they're down, they like to kind of mess around with what they're doing. I've already said they were going for 1 picks yesterday and 1 taps yesterday in situations where they probably shouldn't have been. Though I think a lot of us have recently seen the shenanigans that Tachanka has been pulled off, I believe mainly by AC's inside Pro League, where I think he got a spawn peak double kill as Tachanka in Pro League. And I think, you know, maybe, hey, new meta? I think Tachanka might be new meta.
I don't think Tachanka will be new meta. I think the only buff that Tachanka is going to get that will see him be the new meta will be him being erased from the game and just completely started from the ground up. Now, don't get me wrong, before chat gets on my back, I love Tachanka as much as the next guy, but we saw how much of a problem Lion caused, and there was a simple reason for that, and that was because the answer was to stand still, whereas Tachanka's entire gadget is based around standing still and locked to the spot, and that just does not work in Siege, unfortunately. So until they make him some sort of crazy segue sort of turret or something, I don't know, I don't see him being too viable. But looking back towards our round, rather than fantasizing over what will make Tachanka a viable pick, we are a minute into the round. We don't have any deaths as of yet. That Tachanka turret actually being put to quite clever use to open up that soft wall there and allow a line of sight. It is something that it can always be used for. It's very powerful at doing that. Yogurts will get the first kill onto Astro, so that leaves us in an effective 5 versus 3, given that Tachanka is one of the remaining defenders. But it will technically be 5 versus 4, 5 versus 3 as Lion picks up the kill on to Milon. So that will leave us now with Epsilon in dire straits as Lion gets the kill onto Shermie during a rotation. Not going well for them at all. I'm sure they would have wanted a more successful second defensive round, but Madman's going to be just sending out that C4 there for if he gets the shout that anybody's moved across that area, he'll be able to blow it if he goes now. Ooh, no, he just misses it. Somebody was running over the top of it. I think it was the Sledge of Liven. But how about that? The Sledge of Liven. I couldn't have called it any better. Coming into the final minute then, 4 versus 2. Epsilon clinging on.
Well, that's it, and you can see Madman is still buried by that alibi as Oh no, Tachanka has met an end. Maybe not the clutch that they were all dreaming of, but still a lot of time left as well. What can Madman do? If Madman did pull something out here, I think it would be one for a lot of record books, but with the drones coming in and the space getting smaller and the bullets swinging around corners before you even approach them, I think as soon as Tachanka was on the board, that round was only really gonna go one way.
Yeah, much better attack from XTreme there as well, coupled with that questionable pick there. They certainly were more coordinated. They got themselves in, they pinched operators, they made it difficult for the defenders to fight back, and they cleared them out very, very well and won a couple of good gunfights there. So much better from XTreme, and certainly starting to look at making a match of this 5-3 now. I think heading back to ventilation, probably the right call. If this doesn't go in their favour, it does allow Epsilon them back up to Armory, where they will be more confident. Milan 13-5. We could just do with a couple of more kills across the Epsilon board there to support him a little bit more. I think at this point that could be the difference between winning and losing this one.
Well, here we see, yeah, I would say a more serious lineup, a more kind of a serious setup here from the defenders, mainly because they don't have Tachanka on the board. They are setting themselves up for a more familiar hold. Castle isn't in the lineup. A lot of teams do enjoy bringing him to kind of keep a little bit more of that top-heavy lockdown and keep rotations, especially towards that bathroom side as well. Just kind of stop any immediacy, but they are loading themselves and stocking themselves up with self-destruction on the side of XTreme, so they could find their way to dig through it pretty quickly. Alibi, we've seen already have a little bit of decent usage as well, and I know there's always a big debate about how much she can kind of bring to a setup and whether she's just guns or how selfish her utility is and can be, and it's quite nice to see her being used quite effectively across the team and give themselves those early pre-fire informations, give themselves those shots, those warnings as pressure now comes towards these eastern stairs. Milan is looking for more bodies and more blood.
Certainly is, and if he starts getting it, it could certainly signal the end for XTreme. He's a player that has to be shut down, and that's something XTreme needs to be thinking now. They know that he's a player of habit. They've banned Jaeger out. They've done it for the reason to take it off Milan. So now all they need to do is recognise that he's played Alibi every single round since then. Go and find the Alibi. Get your drones out, find the Alibi, close off Milan, and get him taken out. Get him 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and just finish him. Don't allow him run-outs like that. He gets himself back to safety, and that's what he's been doing all night. And again, XTreme have not paid enough attention to where that danger man is. We also see Renshiro taken out there. Madman finishing the kill, so he can't use that last stand ability of Zofia to get himself back on his feet. That leaves us 5 versus 3 now in favour of Epsilon. Boy does have the diffuser in hand. XTreme are certainly not finished here, but it is not going to be easy. They haven't made any real progress towards the top floor control, which now, especially being down to 3 men, precludes them from really approaching site. They are going to have to take out some of these top floor roamers if they want any success here with 1:30 to go.
Well, last time we saw this Nomad pushing this window, she was made quick work of by the Echo. Is no longer here either, but as you said, the drones are coming out. They still have a lot of time, and they have a lot of possibility that they can bring with the attackers left alive. They have the soft, they have their only real hard that's in the game so far, and they have Nomad. They couldn't do something, and they're gonna just dance by the looks of Boy as Yogurt starts to dig across and runs straight across the window, seeing if they can bait someone to do an AC run out at this point. Obviously a Nomad is sat up there, gonna just go for the closer jump out. So much time hit by the Nomad, and Nomad cleans up. Very smart move. Astro went a little bit far. Voy finds Shermie as well, suddenly balanced, but Vipsy is going to meet the maker of Yogurts and finds another one coming back in and destroying Voy deep across that workshop. And now it is just Liven who is already being peppered as Madman. It's Epsilon on not only map point, but on the series point as well.
Series point it is, and Epsilon really taking this in quick fashion, and proving me wrong coming into this match. I expected XTreme with the, you know, the greater experience and just more time together as a team and more time spent playing together to have the advantage here, but Epsilon have really turned the odds on the head and done a fantastic job so far. They've got themselves 6-3 now. They're going to have 3 good opportunities to win this, and how about this? The first opportunity to win it is on Armory Lockers and Archives, a site that we would expect to be the most powerful on border, and that they won in their first defensive round, so they're going to be very, very confident going into this.
And they're not bringing Tachanka, which is a curious thing to see. But they are bringing Vigil this time, and I believe it's the first time we have seen Vigil today, and it really does play into the style that they like to bring to these maps. They like to bring this pace and this fluidity and this kind of, you know, danger. But here we see them kind of getting themselves set up here, and they're not willing to let this keep rolling out. And they've done their one silly round, and now they're bringing it to Armory and setting themselves up. And you said Armory was the point that they won first of all. It did come down to a 1 versus 1 battle, but it was half health against 1, and it was a 3 versus 1, so it was an uphill battle for the attackers. There is a time for XTreme to pull out all those tricks they have learned over their many, many combined years of experience. Well, this is what we hope to see. A lot of reinforcements on triple. They're going to try and keep themselves dug into offices. Not really any on Fountain at all, but they're opening up some rotation holes towards second CCTV at least. From 90, and they're putting a bit of reinforcements through 90. Curious to see where Alibi starts to roll down those traps and where they can lead them to, but Madman has already suffered a bit of accidental damage, and the bullets are pinging and popping through doors.
Pinging and popping indeed, so we are now 6-3 in favour of Epsilon. We see XTreme just taking this slightly slower approach that we've seen them do previously when they've been struggling with losing men early in the round, and that's exactly what we saw happen last round. They did just lose a couple quickly on the bounce, and that left them struggling for the rest of the round. So now we're going to have the defenders just holding in tight here. Epsilon do not want to have to go to another round, another 2 rounds. They want to finish this here and now. They've got the good sight. Milon getting the first kill. That is a great start for Epsilon, taking Lion off the board, but Renshiro will trade that back out with 1 onto the Vigil, so that leaves us 4 versus 4 now. And Ash versus Vigil, I have to say that the attackers have probably come away with the better end of that bargain. Milon getting aggressive again, and it doesn't look as though much attention once again is being paid to finding Milon and to closing him out and getting a pinch on him. We've got all 3 attackers huddled together there, coming in from the east stairs. Renshiro will get that headshot out onto Milon, so that now leaves us in a 4 versus 3. XTreme looking a little bit better here, and they're just going to try and use this hard breach capability of Maverick. If you burn the top and you burn the bottom of the reinforcement, it will fall away from the wall, and then Sledge will be able to open the soft wall up to get them in if the vault isn't there, although I think it probably already is. So we're now going to see 1 minute 10 remaining, and the challenges are going to start raining, but Madman getting super aggressive there onto that breach. Shermie getting a kill onto Renshiro just to even things up. Madman takes out the drone. Information being key at this point. He's just going to keep himself alive in office for as long as he can so he can get those goo mines into position. 50 seconds to go, and it's all to play for.
Well, you can see they're desperately trying to get through that triple wall that they have opened now, and Madman surely living up to his name as he is meeting this fight front on, currently dug into the spot, affectionately called Canadian by Sternab. They're just trying to hold on via that soft wall and pip anybody that enters, but 30 seconds, Echo and Legion still on the board. It's not an easy fight for XTreme Video. This is when they're going to have to try and make something out of not a great selection, pushing through the Legion and pushes into Legion himself and finds the double. Yogurt's refusing to lie down as the team stack up. Shermie is getting consistent spots and information. It's rotating around. Not sure where the drones are, but this could be the moment that makes it. Can't see the man planting. Has to bring the drone round. No! Unfortunately, we're still a bit too in the open as Voy finds Shermie and keeps them in it for 1 more round.
Well, where have we seen this before? XTreme just hanging on, keeping themselves in the fight, and again, we keep talking about that experience, but that's exactly what that is going to do for them. We saw them do it on Consolation, coming back from 5-1 down. We've now got them on board a 4-2 down, bringing it back to 6-4, so they will continue fighting until this is lost. The only problem that XTreme face here is that because of the round rotations and how they've fallen, Epsilon can play every single one of these match points on the strongest site on border, Armory Archives. They can play there until they win or until they lose. So XTreme are going to have to keep attacking what can be a very difficult site here.
Exactly it. Now, Flash baited and swapped out for Bandit. They're going to, again, try and play this the same way. I assume they've been playing it before, and I know we've commented on the fact that Epsilon arguably don't have anywhere in terms of experience and tactical side of things. They've said before they hadn't actually scrimmed this new lineup before the matches yesterday. I think it was even Shermy said he hadn't actually played Siege for a couple of weeks before the matches yesterday, and yet here they are battling for this big prize pool of third place against a team that has the opposite. They have years of experience. A lot of them have played on other teams. These are names that are well recognized as Madman goes to dig in against that triple wall again, and they are still rotating operators, rotating selections. There's now the Legion has traded hands to Fipsy as well, and curious to see if this is what they like to keep alive. They like to keep everybody guessing as to who's going to be where, and maybe I can do the Echo this time, and I'll be the Legion, and I'll be Widowmaker, and here it is, holding on to triple for what is they hoping their last round of the day.
Hoping they will be, and we will see in 2 minutes 45 whether that is the case or not. We are obviously at this point still 5 versus 5. XTreme is certainly not rushing that quickly. We've got Epsilon just trying to hold out a defense here. We've seen Fipsy getting himself out on the roam a little bit with the Legion, and I'm absolutely certain that Milon will be out there with the Alibi as well. The Nomad air jab is just going to come in early onto that single door of the Armory to stop any potential rounds when they get out there and try to start operating in that area. That might signal the potential for Maverick to come in, open up a little bit of that wall and just give them a line of sight in there, but we can't see Roy heading over this way as of yet. We can see Yoggers just opening up that line of sight for himself on the Nomad, getting through small office, and that air jab's just going to allow him to operate safely in that area. As it stands, it looks like a lot of attention is being paid to the officers area from Epsilon this time, and there's not too much of a push coming in that direction at the minute. Largely, XTreme are in the main in security and CCTV. Whether they choose to then push on into officers from there, time will tell.
Well, you can see Liven is trying to get control of CCTV as well, and they're looking for that long-range pick that's becoming very popular, where you kind of keep your eyes all the way deep from within office and stare across. Alibi doing work, but here comes the smoke push, going to cook the man out of half wall. It is Astro, and you see his health tipple down, but Shermy with the wide peak against the Nomad holding the angle. Fipsy finds Liven as well, and it is starting to fall apart as Astro goes for revenge, but does not get it. Lion finds Astro. It's on a fraction of health now as they're trying to find a closer way in. Gonna give themselves a Claymore to stop any potential heroic run-outs, being caught by a blast in the face, but Ranchero is adding a bit more pressure. Shermy is exceptionally low health too. This is a lot of dicing with death across both teams. Bullets get popped towards Little Office. There's a bit of a rotation as well. Legion gives the game away that he's holding there, but with 40 seconds, the impact is what shuts Lion down and the Claymore. Whether they knew he was that low or that was a luck, but Zafir is ready and attempting to pick them up. Gonna throw one of the Grismots out just to slow them down and try and bait anyone to peek against it as they can get up the Capital, but there is less than 20 seconds on the clock here.
Very late attempt again from XTreme, which is something that we have seen time and time again. Madman and Fipsy getting 2 of the kills that are needed. Lion gets 1 in response, but it will be only 1, and that will be all she wrote as Fipsy steps in, gets the final headshot onto Lion, and that will be the match taken. 2-0 to Epsilon, and third place, CCS EU, goes to Epsilon. Who'd have thought it?
Well, if I'm honest, I wouldn't have, based on the showings that we've had across the entire season, and based on the showings that we had in the games yesterday. A lot of people